Hot off the heels of Raised by Wolves, me and John want to keep the sci-fi rolling. John, are you excited for Halo? I don't know. I've never played the game really, and John, I think John might have a couple times, so we're going to have fun viewing it from a non-gamer, well, non-Halo gamer perspective.
Everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. So, if you haven't checked out Raised by Wolves Season 1 and 2, we definitely enjoyed those. We covered all those, and we did some deep dives as far as viewer comments, things like that. Really fun stuff. Check out all that stuff if you want to go into some other science fiction. But Halo Universe, I had heard like a decade ago that I think, Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson and all these people were interested in a Halo show. And then all of a sudden, hey, now released on Paramount Plus. And I was just, what? And then Nick, today texts, hey, I think we should cover it. And okay, so and here we are.
Well, we should at least watch it. And so, I mean, for me, well, welcome back if you're a returning viewer. Welcome if you're a new viewer. But for me, I always like to give a show at least 3 episodes. Like, you have to, right? Like, imagine if we just gave Raised by Wolves 1 episode. We would be missing out on a lot of fun, crazy stuff. So this is the first one. I have no knowledge of anything Halo, but something felt off to me, like with this episode. I don't know if it was like the action scenes. Like, I just felt so weird, and I don't know if I was 100% on the CGI page,
or what was it that felt weird about it too?
I think it was like pacing, and I don't understand how the physics work and stuff in the Halo world too. So, I mean, seeing these like big like alien creatures, which kind of look cool with the designs and stuff, but I think the weight and the timing of the 3D was just a little off, and like the guy would
jump in and landing on like the bunker top and things like that.
Exactly.
Right?
And then it was even weird when it got to like hand-to-hand combat. Like, this little guy's in there and he's fighting these big aliens, and he's like doing things where he can't even see behind his head. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're doing this right now.
Yeah. It's like, oh, eyes behind. Now, I remember a NFL documentary, and people would be talking about Emmitt Smith, and the guys would be like, I don't know how we knew the guy was there, but he just knew. And some people do seem like they have this sixth sense where they just know that people are there. So maybe they're just trying to get at that. But again, we are talking about a show based off a video game, so maybe we shouldn't be thinking about this too much. But
you're right.
When I saw the guy jump on top, one of the Spartans jump on top of the bunker, I'm like, Nick's gonna have something to say about that for sure, because the weight and the gravity that he didn't continue to roll or anything, there's gonna be some thoughts about that.
It could be their suits. I guess their suits are enhanced, so it could be something to do with the suits. It can be, I have no idea what the gravity's like on this planet, so I have no idea on stuff like that. But it seemed pretty grounded to all the human-like characters. But
exactly, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the little girl wasn't doing like moon jumps or just like little hippity hop, like bunny hops. So it seemed like it was regular gravity. But yeah,
you know what got me excited, even though I probably wasn't 100% behind it, maybe the way it was done, was the first point shooter perspective. Because obviously this is based off a video game, right? Yeah. Okay. So
yes,
like,
Nick.
And it felt very video game-y to me at times too, in the fight sequences and the perspective and the way like the armor would like recharge after it got hit and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like there's some cool like video game elements going on here. I remember that sword, right? The sword with the two things, like that's very like iconic. Yeah. Okay. So it was cool. It was cool. I have some questions, a lot of questions, and I don't know if John can answer them, but if you guys can throw your knowledge here, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's always tricky. I mean, obviously Nick and I have never made a huge IP based on an existing game IP, but that's got to be very hard because you have to put in enough to please the existing gaming population, but you also don't want to be completely tied into that, because if you just try to recreate a game as a movie or a show, that's not going to go on. They've already established, hey, this is not going to follow the game storyline. This is going to have the characters, and it may have some plot lines, but this is its own thing. And that's really kind of how you probably have to do it. And, I remember there was a Doom movie. I think it had The Rock in it. I might be wrong, but there was a Doom movie, and they had a sequence where there was a first-person shooter type view, or, first person, and everybody's like, they kind of had to throw it in there because it's a Doom movie, but at the same time, oh, how cheesy they did it, a Doom view. So it's like, you know what? It wasn't that long is the big thing. It's like, hey, it's there. Here's a little nod to this is where it came from. But it's also fun because, like, you're getting a view from this very view-limited helmet. And they did that a number of times in the episode. It's like, yeah, it's fun to inhabit someone else's view of the
Yeah.
world, and in those Spartan helmets, that's what they get, which is kind of fun.
Talking
And
about
it's
the
kind of
Spartan
funny.
helmets, the whole uniform looked good, by the way.
Yeah, that was really,
I
really
was
cool.
really digging the uniform. The thing that threw me off was the aliens, I think. What are the aliens called? Do you know what the aliens are called in
I
the
think they're
show?
the Covenant.
The Covenant. Okay.
Referred to this Covenant.
The Covenant threw me off a lot. Well, the Covenant dudes that were fighting threw me off because the Covenant looks like it's a mix of different aliens and humans.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Okay, because that's what I'm getting from the show. Remember, I have no Halo knowledge, but yes, go on. I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I mean they definitely have like sub levels. Like they're definitely making the Covenant a lot more hardcore in this universe. Like there's blood and gore in this. In the games, these little guys going, hey, like running around. They look kind of silly, almost like Stooges a little bit. Whereas this is a lot more blood and gore, and you're just seeing limbs. Like right from the get go, when those kids are tripping out, oh my god, like, and then you just see like
Saving
limbs
Private Ryan to me.
Yeah, Saving Private Halo. Yeah, but yeah, so it's fun that they're not keeping it PG-ish, because I always felt like the Halo games tried to keep it PG so it would reach a huge audience. Whereas here, they're not really going for that. We're like, yeah, we're not going to shy away from that. But that being said, I don't think it needs to go complete gory in order to still be good necessarily.
Cool. So, question. So, when he touched that thing, is it because he's special and it like activates him, or is it just because he's human? Is it just because blank? I just don't know what makes him so special, where if he grabs that floating stone.
Yeah, so if this is a game device, you guys can let us know down in the comments. But I mean, the only other one that they've talked about is, on the Covenant, headquarters. They're like, oh, like when you would touch it, it's another human, obviously, so it's just going to happen if a human touches it, or is it because...
Right, maybe it's just humans.
Or maybe it's specific to a couple humans, but we obviously after 1 hour, one episode, we haven't gotten enough information on that. Unless it's a game device that Nick and I don't know about. So you guys can let us know down below.
And then the other question I had was, okay, so there's that science girl with the blonde hair, the science lady. I don't know everyone's names yet. I know it's the first episode, and we just got off of watching it, so give me a break. So was she cloning herself?
So the clone looked incomplete. So that's going.
I just couldn't tell because there was no hair.
So I know, like no really eyebrows or eyelashes. I was like, I was like, as soon as they went inside the pod, we were right next to her. I was like, oh, like no eyelashes. But yeah, that's they've hinted that's going to be Cortana, which is kind of Master Chief's hologram friend through all the things. She plays a huge part in all the games. And in fact, the newest Halo Infinity is the first Halo where he doesn't have like kind of Cortana as like a main character. And so anyway, so she plays a huge part. And so they're hinting at the kind of origins of this, this character and where it comes from, things like that. So yeah, so that's Cortana. But at the same time, it's like cloning. I'm like, okay, is that a clone of her? I was too freaked out by her no eyelashes and no hair that I was taking note of who does she look like. Yeah, so I don't know if it's supposed to be her or not. Yeah, so I was like, ooh.
And then the other thing that threw me off was seeing his face. I was really hoping like they were going to go the Mandalorian route where we don't see his face at all. But I mean, it kind of worked with the way they played it off in the show. He's like hit my head. My head's the target or whatever. Like I can't remember what he said. But were you okay with that, or would you think is it supposed to be like no one's supposed to know who he is? I don't know how that goes in the game.
I mean, you never really see him in the game, and it could have built up towards a bigger thing, like in the Mandalorian. But at the same time, they played it as an important thing. It's like, hey, he finds out, first time he's feeling emotions because he touched this stone thing, and he's like, oh, I killed, her mom, and she wants to kill me. It's like, all right, here's my humanity, and I'm showing her my face, which is my humanity. So it played through plot devices well, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is not even a one episode in, and he's already showing his face. It could have built up towards something bigger, but it had a playoff.
It works.
Earlier on, she goes, "Do you ever take that thing off?" He's like, "No, all my systems are routed into this. I don't take it off." So it worked, but it was a very quick, thing.
And it just scares me because he didn't put it back on. So I'm like, oh man, is he gonna go the whole like?
No, no,
Okay, okay.
no.
I was just about to say, oh man, they better not like Robert Downey Jr. Don't get me wrong, he's a great Tony Stark, but I would love to see more helmet on his head while fighting. It just seems safer, especially if you don't have superpowers. But is there any other major things that? Oh, the music. I was not a fan of the music at all, and I remember the Halo music being pretty good, and I was not a fan of this soundtrack.
Well, I mean, there's definitely that main Halo menu theme, where
Mm,
the like the chorus choir type of, soft chanting type thing that you
mm,
have there going on. That is kind of a recurring theme that you got in a few different spots, like when the
mm.
ship powered back up at the very beginning of the show. So you got that a few times.
Okay.
If you guys have watched at all any content on this channel, I'm a huge fan of orchestral scores, and it did. Aside from the things that I had noted from the little bit of experience I have with the games, nothing popped out to me as like, oh,
Mm,
that's hardcore great. I'm gonna go listen to that on Spotify tonight. Nothing like
mm.
that. But nothing. It wasn't like bad or anything. It just wasn't super notable. So it actually bothered you, or you didn't like it
It just
overall.
didn't do anything for me. The whole
Okay.
soundtrack. I don't want to compare this to the Mandalorian, but obviously it feels more Mandalorian than it does like Raised by Wolves, right? And because it looks like you're gonna be following this one character's journey
Yeah.
of his moral, like what's right, and him like awakening. It's like almost like not Jason Bourne, but I guess kind of like Jason Bourne, right? He's getting his memories back, and
Yeah.
then he has a companion now that's gonna be with him,
Yeah. Sure.
and
So this is the mishmash of the teenage years of the Mandalorian meets Jason Bourne is what we're getting here. But yeah, when I was going, it's like, so this is the teenage version of Mandalorian, but I like the Jason Bourne thing as well. But again, it's funny. It's easy for us to throw criticism and say, oh, they're just doing the teenage version of the Mandalorian. This has probably been worked on
yeah,
for years and years and years and years, and they had no idea the Mandalorian was even
yeah.
being worked on. So there's none of that. It's like, oh, they're just it's just a rip off of this and that.
You
We're
can't,
not saying
but
that,
we
but
can't.
yeah,
You can't get mad at that though, because like everything's a rip of something. And like
yeah, of
Harry
course,
Potter is Star Wars, or Harry Potter's Luke, or whatever. What Neo's Luke, Neo's Harry Potter. It's like whatever you say. It's like, oh, Simpsons did it. You can you can always every story's almost been pretty much told, and it's more about the journey, right, and like the landscape. And it was really cool seeing a planet and I really enjoyed the planet vibes, and I enjoyed like the ships. And obviously I'm not an expert when it comes to, I probably look just like the stuff in the game. It probably didn't. I have no idea, but
yeah, yeah. That was
but
pretty spot on.
it
Yeah,
looked good. The ships and the buildings VFX stuff looked good. I think what was bothering me was just like the aliens and the weight and the timing, but other than that, it looks pretty good. Like I wanna say this is hopefully going to be good. Like I really want it to be good, because I don't want to have bad shows. I want to have more good shows than bad shows. So I'm pulling for it. We're gonna give it a good college 3 semester try. So we're gonna give it 3 episodes and see how it goes.
I thought the visuals were quite good though. When you saw the city
Oh
shots,
yeah, yeah.
when
All
when the
that was
ship was coming
fantastic.
in,
Yeah.
those were
Mhm.
really beautiful. I thought the other planet terrains and
Yeah.
stuff, all that looked good. When you had the Spartans walking and you had their long
No.
cast
That
shadows,
looks
some really
fantastic.
beautiful,
Hmm.
some really really beautiful shots. So you can tell, and right in the opening credits, Amblin Entertainment.
Yeah.
That's Steven Spielberg's production
Hmm.
company. So I mean, he's kind of producer on this. So it's had a lot of time and energy trying to get to this point where it's actually a real product that
Mm.
exists in the world, and it's cool that it actually happened. I had just written this off years ago. I was like, oh, this is never going to happen, and I had it. Obviously, I hadn't been waiting for it because I'm not a huge Halo player,
Mm.
but I'm super pumped for all the people that have been waiting
Yeah.
for this for years and years, and it seems like it's being very warmly received and people are enjoying it. So that's great. I mean, people are getting all kinds of Star Wars content. You're getting, video game content typically is not good, and this is being received very warmly. So this
Yeah.
could be, very good, solid IP, game content, and they're producing it along with 343 Industries, which are the makers of the game. So this is,
Mm.
I think, the first time where the game company is directly involved in the create. I don't know how closely they're aligned with this, but usually it's just, okay, we have the rights to it, or maybe we get the blessings,
Mm.
from the game company, but in association with. So they're actually
Yeah.
probably playing a more active role, which is cool. Like I've always thought it's weird that the game studios maybe don't play a little bit more active role.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then one thing, I'm new to Paramount Plus, And if you don't like commercials, like I don't like commercials, or I'm so used to HBO Max, our favorite
Yeah.
streaming service, where getting commercials was pissing me off to the point where I think it was ruining the viewing experience. So
Yeah,
I
for
might
sure.
I might
Yeah.
try to upgrade to see if that makes a difference, but gosh, why do they got to do that? I understand, like, back in the day when you had cable television, you would pay for cable television and you still got commercials. But gosh, I want that to go. Is that necessary?
Well,
Paramount, come on.
it's funny, even HBO Max. So Nick and I got on the HBO Max train very, very early on. HBO Max has a lower tier that's commercials as well now.
Oh, it
so
is.
We just don't have that tier. We have the no commercial tier. So yeah.
Oh, what is that? No, this is. It just makes it even worse because like it's like cable. You know what? If you want us to talk about the streaming situation, let us know. Comment down below. That's a topic for a whole other video for us.
Yeah,
but any last stops? Any last thoughts before we close it out?
Yeah, you know what? I think this is probably when I think of a show based around a first-person shooter like Halo that I'm sure there's some good lore in there. I played through the third game. I played, some chunks of the first, game watching with my friends way back when. There's some story there, but it's mostly like you just enjoy the gameplay. It's not a super, super deep world. And some of you guys you don't have to send hate mail or anything. I'm sure there's more story to it. And there's enough games to where there's lore and, things going on. But this is about, I think, the best case scenario you could hope for in this. There's definitely a story. Master Chief is just not the same Master Chief you have in the games. There's a lot more built around there, and they're not trying to stick with the game completely. They're going off on their own direction enough to where you're enthused to see. Like, Master Chief is just not a black and white character that you just embody and play. Like, oh, he has his own, kind of history, and we're trying kind of learning that along with him. And so it's a fun setup that could be very fun to go through. And so I think they've set this up to be very successful, whereas a lot of other video game based movies are just like, hey, it's Street Fighter. People are just going to watch it because it's Street Fighter
Mortal
and it's
Kombat.
Jean-Claude Van
Oh my
Damme.
God.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, and some of those movies actually, not Street Fighter, but some of those other movies actually did pretty well as far as the money they made, but there was no story to go along with it that was overly meaningful. Whereas, this looks like they actually have some good stuff to tell. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It's kind of like Arcane. I never played the game, but that story is incredible, and I highly recommend watching Arcane on Netflix. Right? Yes, it's on Netflix.
Yes,
I believe.
Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that if you're into video game shows. It's incredible. It's beautiful. I'm trying to get John to watch it so he can cover season 2 with us.
All right, guys. So let us know down below if you are hardcore Halo veterans. Let us know if there's more linking to the games of what's going on. If the Crazy Stone is part of a game. Let us know, or if that is brand new for the show, that'd be great to know as well. And any other things we should know going into these other seasons. No spoilers, definitely, but giving us some little guidance would be great. Check out AsArt.space for all the audio and video links for the different type of content we have. We cover a lot of different things, from game reviews to some deepfakes in the past and all kinds of different shows and movies and everything like that. We like to kind of have our hands in a lot of different areas, and we are guided by what you guys like. So please let us know down in the comments what you'd like to see. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. Shh. Cortana's coming. No eyelashes. It's funny because I never know what I'm going to say, and then as I'm doing my thumbs, I'm like, oh God, think of something quick.